Hello Nippies, welcome back to today's video, and if you're new here, hi, hello, I'm Nips, a freelance artist, and today, as you saw in the title, we are going to be working on an Ahri tattoo commission. Yes, Ahri from League of Legends, and this is a very actually fun commission. It's from someone who I've already done a tattoo commission for in the past, of Ahri as well, TSM Ahri. I'll go ahead and put it on the screen so you guys can see it. And so it was really fun to hear from her again. I usually don't take tattoo commissions because I get too nervous about how they're gonna look in on the body, and the fact that it's like a permanent thing kind of scares me. And not only that, but I don't know if I have an easy style or not to translate into a tattoo, because I know certain lines, you know, you can't do too thin of lines or put certain things close together, because if not, they just don't look well. So I just get really anxious, and a lot of tattoo styles just don't make me comfortable. But this commissioner is just so incredibly sweet, and they're just not picky at all. They just kind of let me do whatever I want. She asked me for Spirit Blossom Ahri, specifically the Aquamarine Chroma. So for those of you that don't play League of Legends, Ahri is a character from the game League of Legends, and the characters have skins that you can use real money to buy, so they can kind of, you know, you can add some flair to your gameplay. And then on top of that, they have something called chromas, which is basically the skin, but different versions of the skin. So you have this skin called Spirit Blossom Ahri, and then you have different versions of that same skin. So she likes the aquamarine one. I thought the design of the skin was really beautiful. The one thing I will say that I had some trouble with this was not only the face angle, but just as I've said before, I'm really practicing on face planes, and it was just a lot of things that I was working on at once. So face planes, shapes, face angles, and then on top of that, I'm not very good at drawing extremely feminine and beautiful, like sexy women. For some reason, I just cannot do it. I don't know if it's like the soft shapes and the small petite faces that I'm not very good at drawing and adding good proportions to, but I somehow pulled through a bit. I'm not entirely super happy with it, but I think at where my abilities are right now, I think that's as far as I can go. I did have fun making the composition, because as far as when I go for tattoos, it's just about like making it look cohesive. Like I don't want it to be kind of like a floating image so much as it is its own solid finished image. I really tried to find a way to kind of localize the drawing and make it kind of its own thing. And I tried to use her tails to close the drawing, so that I made a heart in the back, kind of like her charm. So for those of you that don't know about Ahri, she's kind of like this 9-tailed fox, 7-tailed fox. I don't know how many tails the actual fox has. And so she has this kind of charm ability where it kind of throws out a heart and stuff. And so instead of adding the actual charm, I kind of made a heart with her tails. I think my biggest problem, aside from the face in this specific drawing, was balancing out the weight on both sides of the drawing. So you'll see that as I start adding lines, when I start adding the details to the bow in the front part of the drawing, like her chest, it starts heavily toppling towards that side of the drawing, and then I have to go back and add more weight to the other side where her hair is, so that it all evens out, because there's too much going on that side of the drawing. So I think that was one of my biggest struggles, aside from the face, that and the neck. So here it's still pretty much early in the drawing, but you'll probably notice how stretched out her neck is. And there are some times, for example, where I'll purposely break anatomy in order to get an effect I want. One of the things that I talk about, and not like I'm a pro at this or like I'm very good at this, from the way that I've done it, just from my experience, is that obviously you need to know the rules to break them. And if you're gonna break them, obviously you're breaking them to get some sort of effect or for preference or, you know, just any of that. So when I do dynamic pieces, for example, I obviously have to break anatomy in order to make it look really flowy and dynamic. However, you have to break it properly. And there are a lot of times where I just don't break it properly. And by properly, I mean, like, at least for me, I want to break it in a way that it's not immediately obvious or jarring on the eyes. So I want to bend it in a way that is very almost not noticeable. And if it's noticeable, it doesn't hurt your eyes. Like it just flows with the picture. In this one, I wanted to make her neck long in order to like see the neck piece and really just see the angle of her face and dramatize that and like not hide her chest like too much and just so it looks more elegant. But as the piece went on, even someone pointed it out in chat, the neck was just way too long. Like it was starting to get very jarringly obvious like the more I kept drawing it. And what happens too is that when you bend a certain part of the body, at least in my experience from how I do it, you have to bend everything around it. So like, for example, I bend the neck, I make it too long. And so by doing that, I inadvertently have to mess with the bending of the neck piece so that eventually it goes back to normal where the collarbone and the breasts are, if that makes any sense. So I have to like slowly bend it back to normal so that your eye can transition from area to area rather seamlessly. I had bent the neck so much and elongated it so much that there was almost no way. You see how the little bow on the neck is too far gone from the clavicle and the breastplate, which is why I ended up, as you saw there, moving it down, because there was no way for me to find a middle point between how long the neck was and the actual placement of the clavicles. And I don't know if this is making any sense. Maybe I'll have to do like an explanation of my thought process in that. But if you get it, thank God, because I don't know if I can explain myself properly without actually like demonstrating it. But yeah, like I bent it a little too far and it was too bad. Here I start having issues. One of the things that I'm secretly very bad at, or maybe very obviously, is curly hair. She has these two kind of wavy strands in the front. I'm just exposing, this is what this channel is about, is really just exposing myself as an artist, all my weaknesses, just laying it out on the table. So she has these two like curly strands of hair in the front, and you'll notice that I go through several iterations of them because I just cannot get them to look right and wavy and just flowy the way that I like that too. And I think a lot of it is just practice. Like I have not had enough practice with curly and wavy hair, and so creating the shapes for that doesn't feel entirely natural to me yet. You'll definitely see that when I get there. And then here you see me, like I said earlier, struggle with the weight of the piece. Like you'll see how so much of it is in the front. And I already know that I'm balancing it out with the lines here, but as soon as I add colors, it's gonna get worse, because yes, I might be balancing it out with lines and with shapes, but colors, like the amount of colors that you have also adds weight. And the amount of colors in the bow, it just far surpasses the amount of colors that I have in the hair, which is why I end up having to move this hair strand towards the left because it's got some very saturated pinks at the bottom, and the more color variety I can add to that side, the more weight I can add there. And so you'll see that once I start adding the colors, I have to find ways to kind of navigate the weight distribution. And then here I'm just kind of continuing to finish off certain parts, still adding some dark black shadows, weighing out the clothing, and just adding the finishing touches to the line art before I get into the color. I know that a lot of these lines, as far as, because I don't know that much about tattooing, I just know from the few times that I've gotten tattooed, I know there are certain things like you can't put very like thin lines don't always work. Putting certain lines together just eventually end up becoming blobs later. So I tried to keep certain things in mind, but as the drawing went on, I just kind of went wild. I just kind of got carried away, so I'm praying for whatever tattoo artist has to translate this into a reasonable tattoo. I'm so sorry in advance. The colors as well, I tried to keep them rather simple because I didn't really know, like I honestly don't really know the limits of a tattoo artist and what is like okay and good to do. And honestly, tattooing is on a side note, tattooing is something I've always wanted to try. You know, one of those things just so you could say that you've tried it, except tattooing isn't that simple, so I would actually have to put in quite some effort in order to try it. But I don't know, maybe one day I'll sign up for an apprenticeship somewhere and get that out of my system. But yeah, I absolutely love the color scheme on this skin. I'm actually pretty proud of how the colors came out and how the composition kind of turned out. I added very minimal shading. I felt like the colors in and of themselves were kind of what made the piece, and I felt like adding too much shading would take away from that. And I think that's something I've just kind of come to terms with as far as my art goes. Just doing the lines and adding minimal shading so that the lines can stand out. I feel like I've just accepted that lines are what I like to focus on, so minimal shading really accentuates my lines the most. Here you see me adding some borders, make sure that some parts stick out, fixing the proportions, hiding some things here and there, splashing some highlights, and really just finding ways to not overdo it. I feel like it's during these moments of the piece, it's so easy for me to get carried away. I'm one of those people that don't know when to stop. Like, if you let me, I will keep going. So here you'll see me really trying to balance out that issue I talked about earlier, where yes, we can have balanced out with lines, but the colors, the amount of colors on that bow is severely outweighing the hair. So I added some very dark shadows to bring our eyes more towards her hair. And then here I just add some sparkles, some stars, making it a little bit more, adding more shapes that'll probably look better on the tattoo than just plain gradients and stuff. Messed around with the final highlights, added a little heart for balance, and yeah, that was basically the drawing. I went ahead and I posted the finished product on Twitter and on Instagram. We are so close to being able to unlock monetization, guys, so thank you so much. Hopefully I will be coming with more interesting YouTube specific videos, not just speed paints with commentary. Let me know what you guys thought down below. Like, subscribe, join the Nippy family, follow my socials on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. TikTok at Art by Nips, streams at twitch.tv/onips. All the links are down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next video.